Hey, good afternoon, YouTube. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Saturday, September 26th. I think it's today, 26th. I don't know. I lose track of time since the pandemic. So it's Old Shovelhead here. On September 11th, I set up the Aerogarden Harvest 2019 model with the included box of gourmet herbs. And today, again, I think it's the 26th. This is what we have. You can see over in the back right, the Genovese basil coming along really nicely. The back left, the Thai basil. And then in the front left, we have thyme, which is now starting to come up above the paper cover, but it's taken its good old time. And then there in the middle left, you've got the dill, which is actually doubled in size in the last 3 days. Over there in the middle right, we have the mint. Not quite ready to take that cap off yet, but it is starting to peek up above the paper. And then in the front right, we've got the curly parsley, which is moving kind of slowly. I'd like to see that coming along more quickly, but it is doing what it's supposed to do. So again, I set this up on September 11th. The neat little, which you see flashing in the screen on the left, signal did hit red yesterday, indicating it was time to add nutrient. So I just stuck with the typical 2 caps. So now let's move over to the Harvest 360. I set this up originally on September 18th or 19th. I had 3 heirloom cherry tomatoes across the back and 3 romaine pods across the front. And of course, my research, and at this point, I'll go ahead and throw a plug out there for Aerogarden addicts. Guys are really helpful over there. Suggested that I would probably run into some problems trying to grow lettuce and tomatoes together. Both require a different amount of nutrient. Tomatoes prefer a little warmer water. Romaine or lettuces prefer a little colder water and less nutrients. So then I was left with the choice. Do I have tomatoes and bitter romaine, or do I have poorly growing tomatoes and great tasting romaine? Which brought me over to the need to buy a third Aerogarden. And I went for another 360. And primarily, when I initially bought the first one I showed you on the far left, 360 that is, I didn't want to get it. I wanted to get another Harvest like in the middle, but on Amazon they jumped $30 in price. So I said, no, I'm not going to spend that money because I want to make my own or set up my own pods. Not set them up myself, but buy a kit specific for tomatoes and one for romaine. So again, knowing that we had we would have nutrient issues, I went ahead and picked up this one and then just simply moved the romaine, which had been started, like I said, I think on the 18th or 19th. So I moved it over here. And today I pulled the domes off the back too. And then the one in the front, I could probably pull it off. I'm going to give it till tomorrow. What you see are old Penzeys seasoning bottle caps, which I've used to cover up the holes on this one, and then the unused openings, let's say. And then over here, those are actually just some gallon milk jug lids. I didn't have any other caps from the Penzeys seasonings, which fit on there actually pretty nicely. And I'm just unwilling to spend the $15 that they want for their spacers that they're called. So, make do with what you have. You got to think outside the box. When I first set up the Harvest 2019 in the middle, I had decided I was going to do daily updates and call it the Aerogarden Chronicles. But after a week of 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, maybe 10-minute videos talking about the device or the unit, there just really wasn't enough growth to justify doing daily updates. So I backed off and decided to wait until I got this thing set up the way I have it set up now, which is ultimately what I had planned on to begin with. One for herbs, one for tomatoes, and one for lettuce. So this is what I have now. If you just really think about the investment, they're $100 a piece. Like I said, the Harvest 2019 model, it's been fluctuating in price from $99 to $130 to $111 to $115 to $125. I kind of like the deck placement or layout on the 360s. Seems to give a little bit more room for plants that are going to get bigger. So I'm really kind of glad that I got the 360s. Again, they stayed at that $99.99 price. And if you're Amazon Prime, then so with shipping, which is free, you got about $107. So you got about $300 tied up in these 3 units. And then I bought, as I mentioned, pod set specific seedlings, one being heirloom cherry tomatoes and the other being the romaine. These are the vegetables that we use most often. And, you buy a bag of romaine, it can cost anywhere from $3 to $6 at stores like Aldi's or things like that. You may or you may not eat the whole thing, but I can assure you that they'll go bad before you finish them all unless that's all you're eating for 3 days. Tomatoes, we go through a bag a week. So, if you kind of do a little fuzzy math, at the end of a year, you're probably going to pay for 1 or 2 of them. And then things like the dill, the basil, the parsley, I don't use a tremendous amount of time. I haven't used mint other than for some tea. I'm kind of excited to have it now because I'm looking forward to brewing some nice tea with some fresh mint in it. Certainly looking forward to having plentiful basil. We love tomato soup, and of course grilled cheese goes good with that. So we can make some nice homemade tomato basil soup. And these types of herbs are very easily taken and dried and then stored in containers for use, which, at the end of a year, you're going to save yourself a couple of bucks. So yeah, you're not going to see your return overnight. You're not going to see your return probably in 6 months. But I think over the course of a year, you will certainly see the return, or at least the replacement in your initial investment, because you don't have to go out and buy vegetables, these particular ones. And then, of course, also to add how much waste you have when you buy the big box or store-bought vegetables. They don't last as long. They don't always taste that great. And there's nothing worse than just throwing money right into the trash. Where here you can come in and snip off what you need and it'll regrow itself. So as opposed to doing daily updates where you're not going to see a whole lot happening, I've decided to I think what I'm going to do is a weekly update just to show the growth and progress for each one of the units, and as well as the tips and tricks that I'm learning as I go. I strongly suggest, if you're considering one of these, joining Aerogarden Addicts Forum. There's a tremendous amount of information there. The moderators are fantastic. There's not really enough information on YouTube for me, because when I dive into something like this, I really want to know what I'm getting into and what I'm looking at. I had tremendous success with Aquaponics years ago, but you run into problems with nutrients in aquaponics, and there's a wonderful, wonderful guy. He calls himself the Aquaponics God, Brooklyn St. Michael. And I urge you, if you're considering getting into aquaponics, to visit his channel. There's a tremendous amount of information. But to set up aquaponics in a small space, using a couple of tubs, what you're going to wind up with is just not enough nutrient to support anything other than romaine. And for the amount of money for lighting and all the other things that go along with it, it just simply isn't worth it. I mean, at least in my opinion, it's not worth it because it's a tremendous amount of work. But this is simple, and they seem to have become very popular over the last couple of months. Maybe it's just because I'm looking for them, but I find that when my son's friends come over, they see him and they go, "Oh yeah, I've seen those. I've been wanting to get one for my mom. I just didn't know if they'd work." So yeah, they work. Let's just keep in mind. Let's bear in mind a couple things here. If you want to grow tomatoes or fruit-bearing plants, they are going to require more nutrient than simple lettuce or herbs. And tomatoes are a great crop, and these things will continue to produce for quite some time. So that's something to keep in mind. I've read and heard of people that'll fill up the whole thing with tomato plants. I just decided I wanted to try it this way, so that's why I've set it up with 3 on, 3 off. And again, the same thing over here. The lettuce and greens, they certainly do not require the amount of nutrient that fruit-bearing plants are going to require. So that kind of becomes a no-brainer once you just understand that concept. That if you put too much nutrient in with the lettuce, what you're going to wind up with is just bitter lettuce. But you can see this is just within a week. The growth on the romaine is just astounding. And of course I have the light still set at the lowest levels because you don't really adjust that until these plants reach the top of the light. And once they reach that hood, then you just raise it up a notch. And then you can start harvesting when it's ready, of course. But they all run great. They come on at 7:30 in the morning. They go off at 10:30 at night. Although I don't have the cycles for plant feeding matched up between the 3, I suppose over the next month or 2 I can try to bump one into another until I can just have one day every other week that I add nutrients, and one day a month that I'm doing water changes. Water changes are crucial when it comes to hydroponics. And I can tell you from keeping fish for a long time, the best thing you can do for the fish is water changes and weekly water changes. Now we're dealing with hydroponics here, and we're not dealing with fish, we're dealing with vegetables. So the water quality doesn't deteriorate or degrade as quick as it would with fish. But as it comes to fresh water, just consider the water being your oxygen source. Stuff yourself in a closet with 10 other people and consider how long before the oxygen in that closet will cease to provide the required oxygen that your body needs. Relate that to the plants. They're going to need fresh water because just due to the fact that you're growing something in that water, it's going to draw the nutrients out of it. It's going to make the water stale, so to speak. So it's going to be really important to remember to stick to the water change schedule, which according to the Aerogarden manuals and everything that you'll find online should be done once a month. It's really important if you intend to have any success with this, that you stick to those basic rules. And you'll probably run into a lot of folks talking about using different types of nutrients and testing pH, using pH up, pH down, and things of this nature. But I think, and from my own experience with aquaponics and raising fish, specifically Pygocentris naterari, or commonly known as red bellies, which I was very successful. I grew out dozens of 10 to 14 inch piranha just by sticking with very simple guidelines, which is regular water changes, a proper diet. So from what I've understood with all my research, the nutrients that come with these pod kits are sufficient to grow the vegetables that accompany them. So I don't think, and I wouldn't recommend running out and getting all kinds of different variants of nutrients. I think you may waste your time. But if you decide that that's what you want to do, I encourage you to go ahead and do that. And please share your results, whether you want to just post something on my channel letting me know what you've used and how it worked, or just get that information out there. You know, YouTube's a great platform for that. So anyway, this is my long first post of the Aerogarden Chronicles, but it's going to be a weekly post. I see no reason to post this daily. I'm certainly not going to get monetized by YouTube, so I like sharing what's going on, and I know I really wanted a lot of information when I decided this was what we were going to do. So I'm hoping that by sharing this, it will encourage other people to do the same thing. So anyway, then we're going to end here. And again, this is the Aerogarden Harvest 2019 model. What that really means is that there's no digital readout here in the front. The other ones that cost a little more money that are the same size are stainless steel. And hey, if you got to have stainless steel because it matches your home, then spend the extra $50 for the stainless steel. But I'm kind of cheap and I'm a penny pincher, so I don't mind spending a few dollars for the equipment, but I'm certainly not going to spend extra money for the doodads. Again, look at the tomatoes here, these heirlooms. Each one of them have sprouted up within a week. I mean, they're not quite ready to take the caps off, and tomatoes, I believe, are about a 70 to 80 day for harvest. But remember this, once these things start to produce fruit and the tomatoes become edible, you know, they go from green to red when they're ripe, you can cut them off, take them off, trim and prune your plants, and they're going to continue to produce. Same thing with these herbs, and the same thing with the romaine. So hey, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking it out. I don't want to say do me a favor, because I'm not getting monetized for this. I won't get enough views, but do yourself a favor and subscribe to my channel, and you'll hit that notification thingy and check in once a week, or you'll get the notification that I posted something, and see how the progress is. I'm going to keep doing this. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Everybody stay safe and healthy. Just really be cool, be excellent to each other. Take care. Love you all. Bless up.